I'll be so disappointed if these are bad. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. About a year ago I made a video trying to figure out what the best acrylic paint was, and I tested a bunch of different acrylic paints to obviously do a very scientific experiment to find out which one was best. And I thought it would be a yearly tradition to do it again, but this time with watercolour palettes. I've got 8 different watercolour palettes and I'm going to find out which one's the best. Obviously based on my opinion. And I bought a bunch of weird and different kind of palettes as well, so hopefully it's going to be fun. It's test and paint, of course it's going to be fun. Okay, so I thought I'd start off this paint test with the cheapest watercolour paint palette that I bought. And it's the Derwent Academy watercolour pan set for £8.80. And for these palettes I'm basically going to be judging them on the overall design and packaging of the actual palette. I'm also going to be obviously judging it on the quality of the paint, and I think that's it really. I don't think there's any other criteria. Oh, and price. You know, if a palette's quite expensive, and I do have a few really expensive ones on this list, if it's an expensive palette, then the paint and the quality and the variety of the colours, you know, has to be worth it. Otherwise it's going to score very low in this little paint test. Anyway, I've got my little Derwent Academy watercolour paint palette here, and it came in this little box, which I think is quite nice. I think everyone will be familiar with Derwent as well. I was actually quite surprised that it was the cheapest one I bought. So inside it looks like this. And we just open it up and it kind of looks like a regular paint palette. I have to admit, I don't know whether you're going to be able to see that, but those paints look really chalky. It's almost got like a white film over the top of them, which is a little bit unusual, but the proof's going to be in the pudding. You know, we're going to have to swatch these. I'm also not going to be using their paintbrushes they provide in the palettes, if they do provide one in the palettes. I'm going to be using the exact same paintbrush with every single palette, just to keep things fair. Right, let's get all these colours swatched. Okay, so I'm obviously not going to swatch the white because I'm doing it on white paper. But overall, my first impressions of this, it seems like a pretty decent palette. I'm not going to lie, it looks alright. The only colour I wasn't a huge fan of is that blue there, this one. I don't like that, I love this blue, but this one just seems a bit, there's something not quite right with it. It seems a bit patchy, a bit kind of like middle of the road. But all the other colours are quite nice. And the thing is, you get 12 colours in this palette, and the palette itself costs £8.80. So that's less than £1 for a pan of watercolour. It seems like quite a very good beginner palette for watercolour. I haven't come across any issues so far, so I'm going to put this to one side, we'll move on to the next one, but so far I feel fine. Okay, next up we have this unbranded watercolour paint palette. It's a travel set for £10 and it's arrived looking basically just like this. Very plain, very boring. There's not a lot I can say about it. I don't even think it arrived in a box. I think it just arrived in a plastic bag. And I bought the majority of these paints off a website called Jackson's Art Supplies, which is a great site by the way. Not sponsored or anything like that. And usually on the site it tells you the brand and the make and the model of the paint, whereas this one and another one I'm going to be testing out in a bit don't have any branding. It's just called like a paint set. So I think it's going to be very, very basic. Okay, so you get 12 colours in here. The variety of colours are very similar to the Derwent one, and this basically has exactly the same amount of colours as the Derwent one did. However, these pans are a lot smaller. I also don't understand why you're marketing this as a travel set, because the other one could easily be a travel set too. It's not like it was huge. I can't tell whether this one's going to be good or not. And this is what the colours look like up close, if anyone wanted to know. I definitely feel like these paints are something you would find in possibly like a pound shop or something. It's got a pound shop vibe to it. I can already tell the Derwent one was better than this. Unless this colour's just a fluke and this colour's not that great, this palette definitely is nowhere near as nice as the one I've just tried. But I'm going to hold my judgments, you know, don't want to get ahead of myself. Oh, I do want to get ahead of myself. This paint is nowhere near as good. It's actually really underwhelming. I'll swatch all the rest of the colours and I'll show you them up close, but I can already tell this is in last place. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, once they've dried down a bit, they actually look a lot better. Once you're first using them, they don't feel nice, they feel patchy and weird. I just want to compare it to the Derwent ones. They actually look quite similar. Thing is, this is going to be a very hard test to do if all of them end up just looking basically the same as one another. I feel like I need to go in with like a magnifying glass. I definitely feel like the Derwent ones are a lot smoother than these ones so far, but they're actually both not too bad. The black's nicer on this one. I'll put them to one side because otherwise I'm going to spend hours debating over which palette's better than the other, and I'm only up to 2. I've got another 6 to try out. But so far, for 2 cheap paint palettes, they were alright actually, they were fine. Okay, so the next watercolour paint palette that I'm going to be trying out is the Winsor & Newton palette for £14.37. So it's slightly more expensive than the previous 2, but still quite cheap, and from a well-known company, so I've got pretty, not high expectations, but moderately high expectations. But it arrived like this in its little box, and it looks quite nice. Got some information, some little swatches on there, which is cool. It also has a little painting guide included, so it gives you some information on different watercolour painting techniques, which I'm not going to be using. I'll keep that though, actually. That looks quite interesting. The palette itself almost reminds me of the one I just tried. It's got a very similar design, and inside we have 12 paint pans, which is exactly the same as the previous 2 we've tried. However, this time they all come individually wrapped, which is a bit of a pain in the arse, I'm not gonna lie. I don't understand why you've wrapped everything in plastic for. I don't think it needs to. It's not gonna dry out, is it? Personally, I find this irritating. Each individual little pan is wrapped in plastic, and not only that, it's got like a plastic sleeve over the top of the already plastic. I just find it unnecessary. I find it very unnecessary, actually. Like, I feel like this is going to be quite a close competition, and little things like this can easily push you into the bottom place, so I don't know what you're playing at, Winsor & Newton. Also, if anyone needs a laugh, then I would suggest you go over to the video where I tried out all the acrylic paints to find out which one was going to be the best, and read the comments on that video, and you will find an insane amount of people who just take things and take life far too seriously. So if you're one of those people, these videos are just for fun. It's just a little play around. Not everything has to be super duper serious. I also think some people don't understand sarcasm, which is absolutely terrifying because I'm the most sarcastic person there is. So maybe there's a lot of things I say and do are lost in translation. But yeah, if you ever want to laugh or just like want to be concerned about the human race, then feel free to go over to that video and look at some of the comments. I stopped replying to them now. I couldn't be asked anymore. Okay, so that's taken me about 10 minutes just to unwrap my actual palette. It also has this little thing in that's detachable, which I assume is for mixing your paints on. This palette kind of feels a bit clunky. I'm not a huge fan of the design. Okay, let's get these swatched. Okay, so my first thoughts on this palette, the colours are actually really nice. I absolutely love that kind of pinky red colour. I also love the greens and the yellow ochre. And I suppose with this palette, I think they sell these little pans separately, so you can pop them out and put different ones in. So I suppose that's why they're all individually wrapped, but I still don't like the fact that they're all individually wrapped. I'm gonna have to proper look at all of these at the end, all together, to kind of come up with which one I like the best, because at the moment I feel like they're all very similar. I'm just hoping the next few palettes start to, I don't know, like, differentiate themselves from these ones, because I don't know where to go from here. Where can you go from here? Is watercolour paint just watercolour paint? I don't know, this is what we're going to find out. Okay, next up we have the Coloro Magical Creatures Pearl Colours paint palette, and this jumps in price quite a bit at £26.50. And this is how the paint palette arrived. It looks very different from the past 3 paint palettes we've tried. It's made in Germany and it's handmade apparently. Okay, so it's got a little sample card here showing what the paints look like on white and what the paints look like on black. Like on this little leaflet thing, the colour on white looks completely different on black. Is that real? Do I have any black paper? I'm gonna have to try this out. I'm gonna see if this is a thing. I only have like proper cheap, shitty black paper, so I don't know, we'll see what happens. But straight away, I absolutely love the design of these pans. Like, they look super nice, don't they? Like, proper fancy. It's almost a shame, I don't want to kind of ruin the pattern on the top, but I'm going to. Right, I'll try them on white first. Okay, this must be a way more subtle paint. See if it changes on black. I don't think it does. Oh my god, it does. Oh, these actually work way better on black. It's a shame I don't have any proper black watercolour paper, but like, that's crazy. It looks way better on black. Ah, that's magic, that. Right, let's swatch all the others and we'll see what happens. Okay, so this is a very strange one and kind of hard to judge. I think on white paper, they're just incredibly kind of subtle and a bit wishy-washy. They're still fine, but they're just very samey. It's a lot of different shades of brown. But then when you put them on black paper, what the hell? Look at that. That's crazy. Obviously, forgive my terrible swatches. It's because the paper's absolutely awful. But imagine that on like some nice black paper or something, or a black background. That's sexy. That's super sexy. This one's going to be a hard one to compare to the others because it's completely different, isn't it? At least it sets it apart, so that's good. I'll have to give that one a think. Okay, so next up we have a handmade watercolour paint palette from Honeybee Pigments that you can find on Etsy. And this came in at £27, so 50p more expensive than the pearly, very strange paint palette that I just tried. And obviously this is going to be more expensive because it's a handmade paint. So someone has physically made this. It's not mass produced in a factory or anything like that. And I'm quite excited for this one. So it came in this little box. Obviously I've ripped it to shreds, but it's got some like thank you notes and my name written in silver, which is lovely. I love handmade touches like this. They've also, this is the palette, but there's some more exciting stuff in here. They've also included some sweets. So I have a Mawam stripe and some of these little, I assume these are sweets. I'm going to eat them anyway. Oh wait, no, they're not sweets. I think that's paint. I'm glad I didn't eat it. These must be some little sample paints. Yeah, they are. Of possibly other colours that this company makes. Oh, they're cute. I was kind of wanting them to be chocolate, but never mind. Some biscuits, fantastic. So I love that. I love all the little extra bits you get in here. I even get a pipette with like a little tiny bee on it. How cute is that? I'm just gonna eat my Mawam. The thing is, providing me with sweets, it's a way to get to first place, I'm not gonna lie. I'm that easily swayed. Okay, now I'll put all this back in. Haven't had a Mawam in ages. And just have to wait. Okay, so this is the paint palette itself. It's in just a little reusable tin. And then you have all the pigments here, and they're all individually wrapped again. I don't know why they do this. There must be a reason. It must be to kind of keep the paint fresh or something. And I bought mine with magnets on the bottom, so I can stick them to the tin. I think you can buy it without the magnets, and it'd obviously be a little bit cheaper. Okay, so there's my little paint palette set up, and it's definitely got more of a shimmer kind of effect to it. And they look handmade. You can tell it's handmade, which is quite nice. I like that. Also, I have tried to make my own paint before, and I know it's not easy, so I might be a little bit more lenient with this paint. I shouldn't be, but I probably will be, because it's an individual person and not a huge company. And I do think it's very important to support individual artists and smaller businesses and stuff, even though I do buy a lot of stuff from Amazon, so I shouldn't really be talking about that, but when I can, I like to support smaller companies and businesses. Right, let's get all these other colours swatched, and then I'll see what I think. Okay, so my thoughts on this paint. The paint's nice, the quality of it's good. The only kind of issue I'm having with this one is that I feel like I bought this as a palette of colours. I don't think I selected, like hand selected the colours. And unfortunately, the palette itself, it doesn't have enough range. So I've got like a blue, a green. For some reason, I've got two greys, a yellow, an orange, a brown, and then like a grey purple. So the colours themselves are nice, but if I was to buy it as a palette, I would want possibly a red, a black, maybe even like a magenta or something. Give me 1 second, I'm going to see if I chose the colours, because this could be a me problem. Okay, so I've just checked my account, and it looks as if they sell lots of different kinds of combinations of different palettes. I suppose you would buy this if you wanted these specific colours, but they sell all the individual pans themselves, and you could assemble your own palette if you wanted to. So I don't think it's a them issue, I think it's a me issue, and I think I've bought a colour theme that I just wasn't personally expecting. Like, I like all of those individual colours. I just find them a very strange combination in a single palette. And they've also got a shimmer to them, so I think I've bought like a shimmer palette. And it's a very subtle shimmer, but it's very nice. Okay, so the next watercolour paint palette that I'm going to be trying out is this 58 pan folding palette for £35, so it's jumped up quite significantly from the last one. And when I was talking before about this plain palette that I felt like I'd bought basically another version of it, this is the one that I feel like I've bought another version of. So this is how it arrived, just in a plain box, and there's no brand or company or anything like that. It's just a watercolor paint palette, which is very unusual, but fair enough. So I have a feeling the paints are going to be pretty much exactly the same as that smaller one. However, this one's got a little bit of a twist. Right, so this is it out of the box, and you might be thinking, well, it doesn't look much like a paint palette. But then what happens? You open it up to all of those colours, and not only that, it's got like a ring thing on here. See if I can get this out. So you can kind of hold it in your hand with this ring attachment, and I suppose you could kind of like paint, and I don't really understand what it's for. I suppose it could be just like worn as a ring, and you could just have a watercolour paint palette hanging off your hand for some reason. But I think it's interesting, and I'm going to jump straight into swatching these because I've got 58 pans to swatch, and it's going to take me forever. So I'll get this done, and then I'll tell you what the paint's like. Oh, well, I'm finally done. That took forever. Now, the paints on them were fine. They were actually alright. I quite liked them. The only issue I have is it's got 58 pans of different colours, and it almost seems pointless because you've got these two here that are basically the same. You've got these four here, which there's like a very, very tiny, tiny difference between them. Them two are basically the same. Them two oranges are very, very similar. Them two reds are very, very similar. Them two browns almost look exactly the same. And all four of them yellows are just so similar. I don't see the point of having so many colours if a lot of the colours are going to be basically duplicates of the same colour. So like there's a bit of a closer up. You might be able to spot like a very, very small difference between them. But try and tell me there's a difference between those two blues. There's absolutely no difference at all. They're the same colour. I don't know about this one. I like the packaging and I like the design, but I feel like it could have had half the colours and you could just mix different shades. We'll see how this fares. Will the weird packaging win me over or not? I don't know. Okay, so the next palette I'm going to be trying out is a Japanese watercolour palette, and I'm not sure the pronunciation of it, so I'll let you figure that out. I don't want to ruin the language. But this is how it's arrived. This is the box, and it looks really sophisticated. It looks really nice. Also, I think this was kind of a mid-range palette from this brand, but if you go for the larger palettes, they are a crazy amount of money. They're so expensive, so I'm expecting this paint to be really good. Right, let's open it up, see what it's like. Ah, that looks nice. So on the back of the box, it's got all the shade names. Obviously, it's got it in Japanese because it's a Japanese brand, but it's also got it in English, which is nice. And then you have a plastic film over the top just to protect it, which I think is much better than wrapping all your individual little paint things. And I feel like this one just looks premium. There's something really nice about it. Like, look at that, the proper shiny. I'll be so disappointed if these are bad, because I think they're going to be really good. The only immediate issue I can see is this one down here. It started to break a little bit, so I don't know what that's about. But other than that, all the others look really good. Okay, let's get swatching. I'm excited for this one. Oh, straight away when I'm putting the brush into the paint, it's almost got like a friction to it. It doesn't glide, which is a good feeling. I think that's a good sign. It's almost like grabbing the paint. Oh. What? Are you kidding? Oh, definitely not disappointing. That's nice. That pigment is ridiculous. Oh, this paint is like so smooth. It's honestly insane. It makes the previous ones feel like sandpaper. That's how smooth and silky this one is. Anyway, I'm going to swatch all these because it's going to take us forever. But so far, I'm really into it. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that paint palette is amazing. It's got the best black I've ever tried. Like, that black is phenomenal. All the colours are just so like rich and creamy and saturated. The thing is, you might not be able to appreciate them on camera, but in person, nothing comes close to it so far. I absolutely love that green colour. I think that's such a nice green colour. I also love that purple and the blue. I think literally my only criticism with this palette is that it's very heavy on the greens. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you count them to 7, 8. 8 green colours. But to be fair, green's my favourite colour, so it doesn't really bother us that much. But it would have been nice to possibly switch one of them out for either another yellow colour or possibly like a greyish colour or a different variant of the purple. But that is me literally nitpicking at this because there's nothing negative I can say about it. It's the kind of paint palette you get and it makes you want to paint just because the paint's so nice. Pretty pleased with that. I am so happy I discovered this brand. paint. Okay, and the final paint palette that I'm going to be testing out today is the Colorist Watercolours by Stuart Semple / Culture Hustle. And this was the most expensive paint palette, coming in at £39.99. And I've never tried Culture Hustle's watercolour paint before, but I do absolutely love their acrylic paints. So I'm hoping this is going to be on par with that. Again, it's another premium product, it's expensive, it's not a huge factory made product or anything like that, it's very kind of niche. But this is the packaging here, and the packaging looks lovely, very on brand for them. It's got all the colours on the back there, and the colours look really nice. There's actually a massive variety, but let's dive in, see what it's like. Okay, so the palette itself comes in one of these plastic containers that we've seen before really. We've got a nice little sleeve there telling us all the colours, and then also a little mixing palette. So we do have a water brush pen, a couple of sponges here, and then obviously you've got all your colours there. They are smaller than the last palette, however I'm not sure how deep these are, because on the last palette they were quite shallow. So it's a hard one to tell, but it looks very promising, it looks quite nice. Right, let's start some more swatching. I swear I've been swatching for hours today. I'm knackered. I'm not really, but I am a bit tired actually. I'm quite hungry. I need some lunch. Yeah, it's exactly what I expected. It's nice paint. Very colourful, very flat, and just very saturated. Okay, so my first impressions, I think this paint palette's really good. I think the yellows, oranges and reds, there's always something really nice about how Culture Hustle formulates their reds, yellows and oranges. I don't know what they do, and I don't know what the secret ingredient is, but they're always really nice. The only issue I have is that they've got two black paints in the bottom of the palette. One's Dirtbag and one's Void. And I don't know whether mine's been switched round or not, because my Dirtbag looks a bit more like Void, and my Void looks a bit more like Dirtbag. If you look at that, that's lighter and darker. But you can see with this one, that one's darker, and that one's a bit lighter. So I have a feeling something's happened, because they've swapped places. I also think it's interesting that they've added two blacks into the palette, because that's the first time I've seen it in any of these. And they are actually different blacks. Right, give me a few minutes, I'm going to go through all my swatches, I'm going to figure this out, and then I'm going to tell you which one is the winning palette. Okay, I'm back with my decision. I've changed this about 3 times because I just couldn't decide. And I will preface this by saying none of these paint palettes are awful. None of them are particularly bad. And it also depends on your budget and how seriously you take your watercolour, but I've done my best. Okay, so in last place, I'm putting the Folden set of paint, which had 58 colours, because I just found it a little bit unnecessary to have that many colours. I didn't think you needed that many. And a lot of the colours felt like duplicates. In 7th place, I've put the Coloro Pearl colours, mainly because I found it to be quite a niche paint and you would have to use it in very specific circumstances. In 6th place I put the Winsor & Newton one, and that was mainly because I had a hard time differentiating between the Winsor & Newton one, the 12 set travel unbranded one, and the Derwent one, and the Winsor & Newton one was slightly more expensive than both of those. In 5th place is the unbranded travel one. I thought it was a fine little set of paint, very cheap and cheerful, can't really go wrong with it. 4th place is the handmade Honeybee pigment set, which I actually really like. I just found the colour options to be a little strange to be included into a palette. In 3rd place I've put the Derwent watercolour set, mainly because it was the cheapest on this list and it was actually a pretty decent paint palette. It wasn't bad at all. Okay, so it's the moment of truth. Who's come in 1st place? Drum roll please. So this was really difficult, but I've put in 2nd place the Culture Hustle palette. It was a really good palette. I really liked it. A little bit on the pricey side. It was obviously the most expensive palette on the list, but the colours were really nice. The palette itself was well curated and I didn't really have any issues with it. But that means in 1st place goes to the Japanese palette, and the reason for that is because the quality of them paints. I don't know whether this company specialises in just watercolour paint. They must do, because the quality of those paints are unreal. It might be hard to tell on camera how good they are, but they are just so nice. And another reason I put the Japanese set above the Culture Hustle set is because I actually preferred the larger pans, found it easier to kind of control the paint, whereas these smaller pans it was a little bit more difficult. However, saying that, this would be much easier to travel around and take with you, as opposed to this. It's a big palette. But that just about does it for today's watercolour paint test. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know what your thoughts are on these paint palettes down in the comments below. And I know for a fact I'll end up getting comments like the acrylic paint video and just save it. I don't care. No one cares. Shut up.